Le paia mal mamalu o tātou atunuu I le nei tai au fou. O tau paia ma mamalu, paia whaale atunuu, mamalu whaale malo, ai meise le paia o lau whainga luenga tutofia le atua o te whātulo watu. Tali tonu o le anu unua tuia whātini o tau sala o tau paia, a wai le ngā whatia e le awauna. Ai tau ia no o tuina atu le limo le whātalofa, ma whawherewa I atuai le nei tai au fou, I le alofa ma le anga le leo le atua, I si o tātou atunuu. Good morning, American Samoa. It is an honor to be before you today to provide another update on the activities and the work of your government regarding our COVID surge here in American Samoa. Today, March 28, marks the 36th day of our community surge. This last week was a very tough one for American Samoa. We saw a rapid increase of our positive cases from an average of 143 daily positives the week before to a record daily average of about 270 last week. We also recorded our highest daily positive to date, and that is 386 positives on Thursday. Sadly, last week also marked our first fatalities caused in part by COVID. And yesterday, Sunday, the beginning of this week, we also recorded another fatality. So as of this presentation, we now have 3 fatalities related to COVID-19. We extend our deepest condolences to the families of those who perished, both as a result of COVID and otherwise. May the peace of the Lord that passes all understanding comfort and guide you during this difficult time. And may the souls of our departed loved ones rest in peace. I want to acknowledge at this moment the service of a dear friend who we celebrated her life last Friday, Miss Tanya Tarasawa, who worked at the veterinarian clinic and was a friend of animals in American Samoa and a friend of many animal owners. Tanya worked feverishly and worked hard, gave of her time to make sure that our animals, dogs and pets of all kinds, were provided the best care. We send her our love, and her mother and her family our deepest condolences, and we pray that her soul is resting with our Lord Jesus Christ. Our surge continues this week. We will see more positive cases. As this is the week we expect our surge to peak. Dr. Laval and the medical community at DOH will talk more in detail about these numbers, but we are expected to look at numbers above 300 and close to 400 this week. As positive rates continue, the chances and the possibilities for fatalities also increase. So that I ask our community to please keep the faith, be strong, be patient. Let's do all the things that we are supposed to do, masking up, social distancing. If you have not been vaccinated, come get vaccinated. If you feel symptoms of the illness, come get tested and get treated. I want to address a few points before I turn over to our presenters today. There is a food delivery that is done through the assistance of DOE and the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Public Safety. This food delivery is a supplement. It's not expected to be the only source of food for people who are tested positive and who are asked to isolate for 14 days. So please don't expect the government to feed you during this isolation period. This is a free service that is not provided by any other state or territory, but the government of American Samoa, because of the governor's desire to serve our people, is making this service available. And the people of American Samoa can help us by making sure that you give us the right direct address where you live so that we can find your house and deliver this assistance to you. You are also required to register on the Talofa Pass system, which will really help us track and make sure that you and your family are doing well. These are some of the reasons why many of you who have tested positive have not received your food supplement. So please work with us, work with your government, so that we can deliver this food to you. Manua schools have reopened, and the Deputy Director of DOE will speak to this issue later on. But the reason why the schools have been open is because there has not yet been a community spread in Manua, and we like things to remain as positive and as usual in Manua, unlike here in Tutuila. There are many teachers who have raised concerns about reopening of schools. We ask that you discuss these issues with the DOE and make sure that, that you are available to perform the duties that you have been asked to do, and that is to teach our students to make sure they are prepared to face the world after COVID is over. Ole tātou whatisinga ele nei aso, ia ole a mua atu se whamtalanga mai le ofiso soifua maloloina, le fionga il whatonu ia motusā, ia ona so ai leo se wholasanga mai le tātou whalimai, ia le tina ia Roxanne Mangel, ia ona tuu leo le avanoa i le tātou ofiso le FEMA, i le tina ia Alison Flander, so ai ma le fionga de loia sili, ia ona whai ule se saunoanga mai le ofiso a onga, le tina fomai ia Roxanne Salavea. Our order of presentation today, we will start with DOH, Director Nua and his team, followed by LBJ, Roxanne Mangel, and then we'll turn it over to our FEMA representative, Alison Flander, who will be speaking on behalf of our federal partners. And then AG Fainu Lele will discuss the new restrictions on our situation here in American Samoa. And then the Deputy Director of Education, Roxanne Salavea, will discuss and provide an update of our schools here in American Samoa. Before I turn them over, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to our frontline workers who have been working tirelessly since we started this surge. Doctors, nurses, lab techs, logistics, security folks, thank you so much for your patience and for your service to the people of American Samoa. I ask our community to please remember these folks as you see them working throughout the day. I also like to thank our media and our community, our media partners. It's critical that we have you on board to make sure that we're doing right by our people. If there are issues that you see need to be corrected, we invite your questions so that we can have the opportunity to address. Also like to thank the servants of God, of our leaders of our churches. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your tapuainga for the governor and for his task force, as well as our frontline workers who are helping us with this surge. Also like to thank members of the Fono, la fionga le presidente o le senate, ma le mamalu o senatoa taitasi o le mota maulunga, moli atu le anganga whaftai, i la o tō tapuainga, ma la o tō ngaluenga o ale whauwhautua, ia mole nei tau mwhainga. Moli atu foi le anganga whaftai le fionga i le whonga whetalai, ma le mamalu o sui filifilia o i tūmalo ese. O le nganga whawhitai le fionga le kovana o no loto sapasapaia o tau mawhainga o lo fuafua i lana fionga. Ia wā lava le puipuinga o le tātou atunu. O le upumoni, i le aise me mawhaia i le fionga le kovana, ia ma le nei komiti. Pe a le awai le fono, ai meise sui mamalu, senatoa soso ani mai a wale tau mawhainga o le nei ngaluenga whainga tā. Whapena foi le nganga whawhitai, i laua fionga i le whamisinasili, ma le mamalu o le tātou maota o whamasinonga, moli atu le nganga whawhitai o no le tapuinga, ma le sosoani o fionga i whamasino, ia e mese o le nā foi vaenga o le tātou whainga mā lou. Ia o le temi nei, o le atu loa le avanoa, i la fionga i le whaatunsili, ia motusa, ia mo le folsanga lana matanga luenga, ia ona whawawai leo le tātou press conference. Director?
After atu mo le avanoa whaauro o maua le nei matanga luenga la wa fionga, e mua na whaatulou, pa ia ma le malu, o lau whaafonga tutula manua i le nei tula o le aso. But foi le au le limo le whaatalofa le nei tai au, tau tonu o mapuepua le maulunga le nei aso le whanonga la nā fionga, tā penanga le fionga le Lieutenant Kovana, a me se foi sui o le malo, whaatalofa atu. Leo mai foi o lau fionga, me se le fonga le fionga le maputasi, sui o le fono o le tātou task force, ia o le kapineta ai mese paanga malo lo tātou ngā lue. O lo matoli poti atu i nei le headquarters of public health i Tāwhuna, le sunga ia Dr. Lauvao, Dr. Losana, ia ma le sui o le CDC, le sunga ia le iema ma le tōtele o taitai o mtanga luenga o lo punau pō ma le au ma le pō a wafo i tau tuaina o tutu le manua. Le nei tūlao le atu le sunga ia Dr. Lauvao ma Losana a wafo i se tu alalo tu sai foi mtau tuanga le malo i le nā fast food malvalu tu la o te atu nei. Good morning to le manua. This is a report from Public Health in the past 48 hours, Saturdays and Sunday. At this time, I will turn over to Dr. Lauvao and Dr. Losana for a quick update of what has been happening in the past 48 hours. Then I will close out some comments from DOH this morning. Without further ado, I'm turning over to Dr. Lauvao. Dr. Lauvao.
Thank you. Fatalo Fatu Mamalu la Tato when it's on Netao and Miss Fatalo for the Tato that you know for Pion Falo Maili Netao. As a reporting name and Tangal Wingers to Maluloina from the east side to the west side of Tutuila, it's like almost every village had positive cases. The red, the darker the color of the village, that means more positive cases are as in Tāwhuna, there's 622 cases in Tāwhuna. Maua has one case, Whangamalu has one case. So like I said, from the east to the west, almost every village has a positive case except for Manua. Next slide. So this is a slide that shows our daily positivity rate for 7 days, for the last 7 days. As you see, the number of cases fluctuated. Some days they go up, some days they go down. But we see that it's rising, the number of cases that is rising every day. So the number of tests that have been conducted overall since the beginning, since February 22nd up to March 26th is 18,132 and 3,381 tested positive. So our overall positivity rate right now is 17.9%. The red solid line, it shows that either we're peaking at we're at the peak, or we're gonna continue to rise, or within this week or next week, this solid line will decrease or decline. So we'll see for the next 2 weeks, where are we going with our positivity rate. Next slide. This is the number of cases detected. So as we see the dotted line, that's our hospitalization of people admitted at the hospital, still remain the same. But our number of cases, our positive cases are up on the rise. So that the highest number was reached in March 24, where we had 300 plus cases of positive cases. So like I said from the last slide, we'll continue to see the rise, but for the next 2 weeks, we'll see if we continue to rise or plateau, or we're gonna see start to decline the number of positive cases. Next slide. To compare American Samoa to Palau, Hawaii, and Guam with our weighted projection of number of cases. So we see the American Samoa, our projected weighted trend line for American Samoa is the red dotted line. And our actual cases is the solid blue line. It seems like the weighted trend for American Samoa, we are following the one that's being projected or weighted trend line compared to the other islands. So Palau is our highest for compared to American Samoa. American Samoa weighted trend line is above Hawaii and Guam. Next slide. So that is the slide of our projection. We're saying from all the calculations that we did that we will reach, American Samoa will reach its peak around the end of March, going to February to March 2nd, where we reach the highest number of cases, where the highest number of cases will be 350 to 400 cases per day. And that we're projecting we'll see that on February 2nd. And then from, on April 2nd, excuse me, on April 2nd. And then we're going to start declining number of cases starting in around April 6th. It'll decline all the way down to to May 4, 2022. That's the projection. We're going to see the end of this outbreak by May 4, 2022. But like I remind you, this is only projections. It might change depending on the number of cases or the number of patients or people that come in to be tested at our testing sites. So we will see the number of admissions and a number of fatalities to appear 1 week after we reach our peak. That's when we start a number of admissions and fatalities to appear. By the end of this outbreak, the number of cases, the number of positive cases will projected to be collected to be seen after the end of this outbreak is 9,666 to 10,000 number of positive cases we'll see by the end of this outbreak. Next slide. Next, this is a schedule for our vaccination and our testing sites. Vaccination this week is Monday through Wednesday only at Tafuna Dewa. Our deal is closed due to the low number of people showing up to get their vaccination last week. So Tafuna Dewa will be open Monday, Wednesday from 8 to 8 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 8 to 4 p.m. Also, vaccinations will be available at Amauli and Leone Health Centers starting today. We will also have 2 vaccination drive-through on Saturday. One will be at the market and one will be at the airport. Our testing sites schedule remain the same, Monday to Friday at Amauli, Tafuna, and Leone Health Centers from 8 to 4 p.m. And on Saturday, only Tafuna will be open for testing and treatment from 8 to 2 p.m. Next slide. This is our testing slide. Next slide. We're using, so by week 13, which is last week, as you see, we started to increase the number of tests. The number of tests that are being used are increasing from 1 week to the next week. Next slide. Next slide. So we have a total number of 43,130 tests, COVID-19 tests available to DOH to supply our testing sites at Amauli, Tafuna, and Leone. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. These are the treatment available. I just want to make, so we still have sotrovimab. We had 186 available. The 60 sotrovimab that was purchased by LBJ, it's all being used 60. So as of now, we have 186 sotrovimab available for treatment. And also we have Paxlovid, Pepti, and other therapeutics available. So the available on hand, stock on hand for the therapeutics is 1,696 doses. Next slide. Next slide. This is an update report from TCF when the DOH did an outreach program to test the inmates. see who needs treatment, and also to review their vaccination status. So for the 2 days that DOH were visiting TCF, the total number of people that were tested was 286. 222 out of 286 tested positive, only 64 tested negative, and 25 out of the positive cases were sent to Tahuna ACF1 to receive treatment for COVID-19. Next slide. So only 86 inmates were submitted to review their vaccination status. From this 86 inmates, only 14 were fully vaccinated, but they don't have any booster doses. 19 received only their first dose, and 53 are unvaccinated. So DOH will continue to visit this week to update the vaccination status for these inmates. Next slide. So this is to prevent COVID-19 from TCF. So this is the plan to update their vaccination coverage to make sure there's prevention measures inside TCF if there's a transmission of COVID-19 in the facility, and also to review inmates who are older and who have medical conditions such as high blood pressure and diabetes to make sure this population are fully vaccinated and receive their booster dose. And also, if they tested positive, they need to reassess if they need the therapeutic treatments. And also to monitor the facility, TCF, to look at their housing styles, the occupancy level at TCF, whether ventilation is good, and to monitor the movement of in and out or across the TCF. Next slide. Vaccination. Next slide. So this is the vaccination or the doses that were given out on Saturday at the marketplace, a total of 280. And from our homebound teams, it's 148. So the total number of doses that were given is 428. As you see, most of these doses are our booster doses. Next slide. So those who are qualified to receive the booster are the 12 years and older. So 56.2% of our population have been of this qualified age group, 12 years and over, received their booster dose. 34% are still yet to come in for their booster dose, which is way overdue. And about 10% of those who haven't, their booster dose is not yet due. So the 34.2%, the 12,582 that are way overdue for their booster dose, this is the number DOH needs to push out the booster doses to these individuals or to these people. Next slide. So our booster dose graph shows that we really did very well in the end of February, the beginning of March to give out booster doses, then start declining. Less people are coming in to get their booster doses. So this is where, as you see the last slide, we still need a lot of people to come in with their booster doses. So that's why the DOH is pushing out the vaccination at the sites and also through our drive-through vaccination, and also at our clinics. Next slide. So this is our eligible population. So eligible an individual which is 5 years older, the coverage in American Samoa. So about 91.1% of our population eligible individual 5 years old and older are fully vaccinated. So this is a very good number for our eligible population. It's 91.1% fully vaccinated. About 3% still waiting for their second shot, and about 2.5% are waiting for their second shot, which is fast overdue. Next slide. That's our pie chart for our total population coverage. It's about 82.8% who are fully vaccinated and 87.8% with at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Next slide. Next slide. That's a map of American Samoa and Manua, our coverage. Go back, please. Previous slide. That's the map of American Samoa, including Manua, of our coverage at each village. We see more blue and we see more darker blue, but we want the islands to be more blue, darker blue. So that means the coverage is more than 90% of all the villages. Next slide. So this is the vaccine, the stock on hand. we have about 10,836 doses, Pfizer doses for the 12 years and older. We have 2,760 doses for the peds age from 5 to 11, and about 1,630 Moderna doses for 18 years and older. So that's the stock on hand for our vaccination at the DOH immunization program. Next slide. That's our plan for our March 31st flight, Hawaiian Air flight. There will be quarantine for 3 days. The quarantine sites will be Sadie's by the Sea, Fatu'a'ainga, Trade Winds, and also the airport hangar. They will be tested on day 3. If those who are tested negative, they are released to home quarantine for 7 days. For those who are tested positive, the physician will determine if these travelers need treatment before they're released home. Then if they are released home, they have to be in home isolation for 14 days. Next slide. This is the isolation guidelines for ASG employees. Next slide. So for ASG workers, if they tested positive, they should be in isolation for 10 days and should wear a well-fitted mask. Then they are advised not to travel. If they become asymptomatic, no fever without using any fever-reducing medication, they will release from DOH on day 11. So those who are symptomatic on day 10, they are asked to continue and complete isolation for 14 days, and then pick up their clearance letter on day 14 to go back to work. Next slide. For frontline workers, they are tested 7 days. If they're tested positive, they're in isolation for 7 days. They are advised to wear a well-fitted mask if around others at home. If they're asymptomatic at day 7, they should pick up their clearance from DOH on day 8, especially if there's no fever for 24 hours, not using any fever-reducing medication. They retest at day 7, negative, pick up their clearance, and they return back to work. If they're positive on day 7, they're asked to continue isolation for 10 days. Then on day 11, they should pick up their clearance from the DOH. Next slide. For healthcare workers, if they're tested positive, they're isolated for 5 days. They should wear a mask. After 5 days of isolation, they come back and test on day 6. That's, retest at day 6, not day 5. If they tested negative, they come back and pick up their letter and they can start work as soon as possible. If they become positive, they stay home isolation for 10 days. And then if become asymptomatic by day 10, then they pick up their clearance letter from DOH. Next slide. The quarantine guidelines for our frontline health workers is to stay away from others. When they are quarantined, please stay away from others. They're quarantined. So quarantine for those who are exposed to a positive case. They're quarantined for at least 5 days, get tested on day 6. If negative, they are released from quarantine. But if they're symptomatic, they continue for 10 days and then get tested after 10 days. And then if they're clear, they can return to work after they receive the clearance letter from DOH. Next slide. This is our plan for Manua. For those who are traveling to Manua, they are tested before they depart for Manua. And for those who are coming from Manua to Americans to Tutuila, they are also tested upon arrival. Those who are tested negative are the only travelers that are allowed to travel to Manua. If they become positive, they need to follow the directive, the isolation for 14 days. We continue to advise the residents in Manua to please and to come get tested if they see any, if they receive any flu-like symptoms like fever, cough, sore throat, to come in and get tested at the clinics in Manua. COVID vaccination is still available in Manua for those who need a booster. And we continue to educate people in Manua about prevention measures such as hand washing, 6 feet distancing, and also wearing a mask. And also continue education, educate the people in Manua about quarantine and isolation, just in case there's a community spread in Manua. And tests and treatments are being sent to Manua weekly. Next slide. And that's it. That's the last slide from DOH. I'll turn my time back to Director Noah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Loval. Thank you, Dr. Lozano, and the leadership in public health for working around the clock. we're really keeping an eye on Manua population, and we are thankful that the Manua residents are abiding by the policy of our COVID-19 response. So thanks so much for that. We have 2 human remains that we're working with the residents and the families in Manua to transport those bodies to Manua this week or the following week. We're also working with the DOE in case some leaders or teachers want to get tested, and we'll take care of that in Manua. So Carr, Honorable Carr, and Task Force, that's the report from Public Health. I was standing by for a questioning session. Over, sir.
Thank you, Director Nua and Dr. Laval. Dr. Lusana, thank you for your presentation. Now we turn to LBJ, Roxanne Maniel, for your presentation this morning. Okay, looks like we don't have anyone from LBJ online, so we will move on to FEMA and Allison Flander for your update.
Good morning, Lieutenant Governor, TCO, and everyone here today from American Samoa. First off, I wanted to express my sadness for the family members who have lost their loved ones from COVID-19. My heart goes out to all of you who have experienced that loss. Our primary goal from the federal side is to ensure that every person in American Samoa who wishes to receive medical treatment to combat COVID-19 is afforded that opportunity. Our medical treatments include vaccinations, therapeutics, and other appropriate medical care. We are proud to be partners with American Samoa to face the threat of Omicron. I want to briefly update you on the actions federal support team members have taken in the past week. Together with our American Samoa counterparts, we are supporting 4 therapeutic sites and 3 vaccination sites in Tafuna, Leone, Amauli, and LBJ. At these sites, you'll find 28 U.S. Public Health Service commissioned court officers that are augmenting the DOH health professionals. In the past few weeks, these public health officers and DOH supported the Department of Health to vaccinate over 8,000 individuals, and they've provided therapeutics to over 1,000 individuals. We also have a 15-person health and medical task force comprised of physicians, physician's assistants, nurses, medics, and respiratory therapists who continue to support LBJ with supporting 24-hour COVID-19 operations. Our FEMA staff continue to coordinate federal support with American Samoa counterparts, and FEMA and HHS continue to support American Samoa government in gaining medical supplies to include additional therapeutics to support the 4 therapeutic sites. DOH, LBJ, and the federal team will continue supporting the community to respond to COVID-19. And we're asking the entire community to support the effort as well. We're urging individuals to take action now to make sure that you don't develop severe COVID-19 symptoms that could put you in the hospital. There are 3 actions that you can take. First, wear a mask. If you visit a store, to include grocery stores, salons, and work sites, put a mask on before you go inside. You'll see that store owners will be asking you to put a mask on per the governor's emergency directive. This is a way that you're going to help support your community by helping each other stay safe by wearing the mask. Secondly, get vaccinated and boosted. This is the best way to protect yourself from getting a severe case of COVID-19. We have plenty of vaccines on this island. The lines are now short and it's free. So do it now, especially if you're older, overweight, on dialysis, or have other existing health conditions like diabetes, heart disease, or cancer. There are 3 sites that you can get vaccinated right now. So we have the Tafuna Diwa site, the Leone site, and the Amauli site on weekdays. And DOH is keeping the Tafuna Diwa site open on Mondays and Wednesdays from 8 o'clock a.m. to 8 p.m. for folks who are working during the day and can't step away from the work to get vaccinated. So now, for those of you who are working during the day, you can get vaccinated after work up until 8 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays in Tafuna. The third way that you can take action is that if you develop COVID-19 symptoms, go right away to the COVID centers, the COVID testing centers, where you can get tested and treated. We've co-located both the testing site and the treatment site, so you're able to get therapies immediately. These new therapies are very good at further lowering your chance of developing a bad case of COVID-19. You'll see that your response to the therapies could be within 24 hours to make you feel better. But they only work if they're given the first few days of your illness while the symptoms are still mild. So don't wait until your COVID symptoms are severe. Once you develop those symptoms of COVID, come into one of those therapy and testing sites early and get treated for the illness. Thank you all for your support. We, as the federal partners, are here at the request of the American Samoa political leadership, and we're honored to be able to support you all with this good work on the vaccines, therapeutics, and other elements of this COVID response with the American Samoa government. Whakatai lava.
Thank you, Ms. Flander, for your presentation this morning. And on behalf of the people of American Samoa, we extend our thank you and gratefulness for the assistance that you are providing here on the island, and also our federal partners who are assisting us from the mainland in Hawaii. We thank you for your support, and we thank you especially for you who are here in American Samoa, for risking your lives, being away from your families, to help us deal with the Omicron spread here in American Samoa. And now we're going to try again. I apologize. LBJ Charmaine Mangeo. Charmaine, if you are online and available, this is your opportunity to provide an update of the events at LBJ. Okay, we're still missing participation from LBJ. We will move along to the Attorney General. Attorney General Fainu Lele. This is your opportunity for presentation on our declaration.
After ya tu ila ofionga ile komalu pena mola ya noa ya fatulo watu fatalo fatu ile ia male malu o le tatou nuu e fo I yaso le aso nei ia le aso wasfu malvalu mati ia nei tausanga wa fe luas malua o le ototonga le o le polo inga fala waitele ia le fionga il Covensili fala vlave fa fose tau soif anuina le alava e fa wau ia ia inga mata yala pa awi le whaungaino talifonga o no whātu la whanoina le ia e tangata umalava o whale I pisinisi o fisa so se whale o no whātangaina ai a tangata lau telo o tātou utinuu e u whale ia ona whaia ia talifonga e olo I tono pasi pa pe foi ta vale la pasese olo pe wai temi e la wai pasese e tau foi ona fai tan ngai la to olo tono o ia ta vale la pasese ma pasi a fai o oe olo ona o oe tono ole ta vale ia pe na oe foi olo tono ole ofisa ia ele tau faia ia se talifonga o lo fa wo foi ia le tayala tatou singa mo tangata la tele mai tau sanga atu le malu a fioanga fa pe foi li fai pule o a fioanga te fa mon mole so soani ina ia fa malusia ia tayala o tangata o lo o fia poto I tonu o se fale ia o le tapa o le sefulu tangata a o le sefulu tangata mai tau ona tautia le va e ono futu pes yatu ia tau foi ona faia latou talifonga ma o tonu na fale ia lava ia le air pe well ventilated o te potonga I fafo tapulaa po le whainumela e limiti ai tangata e lua sefulu ia tau foi ona fai talifonga ia whapea foi tau sia o le va e ono futu ia pe siliatu lo o mai tawina ia nisi o afi o anga ia o lo lipotia mai ai ia whaatsinga tangata lau tele o e whamon mole atu le malo le atunuku whapea fo ia afi o anga ia lin whai pule na ia soani le ngā luenga le malu o le malo whapea fo I leo leo ina ia whamalusia ia taiala wa le puipuinga o le malu o le tatu nuku lea ua o vatu le tolu afe ia tangata wa afia I le nei whaamai ia mai mana o mia lava le tatou ngā lulue whaatasi. A whai e iai ia se whala potuputonga ia poni a inga e fia whai ni potuputonga e sili atu I loo le whainu mela ua tā ua. A mon mole ia whaila au tautal sanga I le Emergency Operations Center ia o numelo le telefoni o le ono iwa tolu balu o. Lo whauawina ia le tatou au mai le iwa I le pō e whangata mai I le afa o le whā I le waweao. I le teimi o le wawao, iwa I le pō e whangata mai I le afa o le whā I le waweao. E le tau tōt tangata o na whafo ma lo lato whale po le maota ma le lawa. Te wangana ai o lo sa ilia se tonga fiti po se fō mai ai ngase po le whanmai. E sa ilia fō I se soani mai le whale leo leo. Tātou pasi ma tātou tāwale lau pāsese, o lo mawhai o na pewa I le luas fulwha I tū la o le aso, ia mai e soani lea I nei tangata o lo fia maua se soani e o atuai o se awala e o atuai I whanmai. Tātou whalkesi mo pampesi, ia e whauau lava ia I tū la māsani. O tātou pisinisi, e te tala I le 5 I le waweao e whangata mai I le 8 I le pō, ia a whai e iai se mafuaanga matua te tau. E te tau wai o na tala I tuatu o le 8 I le pō, ia o na tausangaina foi lea o se whātanganga mai le Emergency Operations Center, ia numela le ono iwa tolu 8 o. Tātou whalewhainga wenga, e ngata I malo au pisinisi ia ono o whautua ina pea ia tangata whainga luenga ia ina ia whaile remote work o le ngā lue mai whale se wangana ai ia o le whinangalo o le whaatonu po le pule I se numela o tangata e te tau ona o mai te tonu ona o visa ma whale whainga luenga e ina ia whaatino ina ai tautua o lea ofisa ma lea matanga luenga ia po o business foi. Tau o foi ie o loo vea matanga te whainga luenga a whai o iai se a unga po o whaalia se a unga o le whaamai po o le tale, po le tafi o le iri. Business nei ua whaasaina o na talaina pa o pingo o fale tausiai ia whana witi po child daycare facilities, fale whamalo stino, fale o tiulu, ia o fale tifanga, ia so se ngā tupe I fafo, ia ma recreational facilities o lo tatala mo tangata lautele. A whai o lo o iai se pisinisi o ia pisinisi walisi atu, e fia tatala, ia e te tau na o mai le Emergency Operations Center, whai lau tau sanga, ia ma au mai le me tau le Site Safety Plan, ia po se fuafuanga, e te talai nai te awala saunga le mu mo le malu le atunu. Pau toina foi ia le mamalu o whaatonu, o tātou mālo, ma tāngā luenga ma ofisa, ina ia te tau o na alia, ia pe tau watu I le mamalu o le atunu, o a tau tua, au nanga e se mai lo au nanga masani, ona o le laititi o tangata o lo whainga luenga I le ofisa ma le ofisa. O wala ia po alternative means of providing services, ia e iai tau tua I lungo le telefoni, online, ia po le meli, ia po le whai fo'i o ni appointments. Tato quarantine, isolation, no fo sea po le no fo pui puia, o polo ina I le tanga luenga o te fua malo no ina, fa pe fo'i le whanmai, pe a whai ua maua se tangata I le whamai o le COVID-19. Ia o nāu whaafonga I le saunoanga le tamaitai fo mai a lau vau I tuainga aso, ia e whai ai ia directives o isolation, ia o ISIS wha aso, o ISIS aso, ia ma tangata whainga luenga o le whanmai, ia ma le soifua malolo ina e whai o na liu aso. Ia ato va'alele e uta, va'alele lau pasese, ia whapea fo'i ia va'alalo, lau uta ma lau pasese, ia o loo tau fia pea I nei vai teimi, pāngana ai, wa io ina I le fionga I le kovana, ia whapea fo'i I le fionga I le lieutenant kovana. Loo whawau pea ia le whamalusia o tui e lua o le full vaccination o tangata whainga wenga malawa le malo. Te I wangana ai, o e ua whai ona apply, ma ua talia lato exemption. Iaia tuainga first responders, e te tau ona whaia e le ngato tui e lua ia au booster shots. Ngata ia o healthcare workers, ia whapea fo'i, tangata o whainga luenga I le officio leo police officers, ia firefighters, tangata tine e whaia ia ngā luenga tau tine mu, emergency medical technicians, ia whapea fo'i e o lo whainga luenga I le ai toe se, ia whapea ma le juvenile detention center. E le ngata fo'i leo tangata whainga luenga o le tātou whanmai. E te tau fo'i o na whai a booster, ma o le aso o lo pangata ai lea fuafuanga I tuainga first responders umo ta'ua o le aso full tolu o apelila. Ia, e te tau ona whatau wai lea fuafuanga. O lo whasa ina pea I a pisinisi o na to on si I lunga I tau o lato o loa. A whai e whaia le tūlanga, ia e suesueina, ia le nā pisinisi a le ofisa o leo ma whai li poti, o na avatu lea I le ofisa o lo I sili, o lia I le solpuna fono. Lo o whauau ina pea I a le reciprocity, mo nei fo mai, ma health workers mai whafo, o lo o fia laiseneina, I te tono o le tātou territory, ma o lo whatangaina, ia fo mai mai I le United States, ma territory le United States, na ia o mai e fiso soani, e ona iai nisi o fo mai, wa umana taunu mai, ia manisi fo I o fo mai, o lo fua taunu, e aso lata mai. ila mamanua. Mia lava le tātou ngā lulu whātasi. Le tātou tā ia po le waa e whau whātasi toi alo whātasi. Pe a whai ina ngalo le atunu ina ia maua se tau unga manuia o le tātou wha moe moe pui pui ai le saunga le mū ia malisoifua o le tātou atunu. Lea e tau sanga tuai ina ia tātou Alu lue whaatasi matutu whaatasi. Tātou le atunu. Ina ia mawhai o na whaalu I lalo ia cases. O le tamwhainga fwoi as te mai komiti ua tōwhia e le fionga e le kovana lutena. Ia e whaasala lau. Lewa iaso ma lewa iaso I le portalami le TV. Pea fwoi le leti o I le whaapulanga ma le whaamalamal maina. O le polo inga le fionga I le kovana. E whaatau le whalawalawe whaafuasei ma tā upu maloloina. A le nei polo inga, ia a le fionga kovana mai le aso sfulu lima o mati whangata mai le aso sfulu tolu o apelila o loo whaawawina pea. Ia manuia ia le tātou atinu I le sosoani mai man whaats mai o le tātou tua whaafitai.
Ia whaftai tele lau fionga I le loia sili, a ona o le folsanga manino ma le matangofie. Ia wafo ili sila fia le tātou atunu tūlanga o le polo inga le kovana. Te minei o la tuatuloa le vanoa, tina fomai Roxanne Salavea, ia mo se saunoanga wātūlanga o tātou awa onga. Roxanne?
Thank you. Good morning, Honorable Lieutenant Governor, GAR, Task Force, ASG leaders, our FEMA partners, as well as everyone here today. Just a brief report. Manua Schools had reopened on March 23, last week, Wednesday, based on the reports received by DOH that there are no positive cases in Manua. Upon approval by the GAR and Task Force and ASG leaders. So since school had reopened in Manua last Wednesday, student attendance has been very low. But school leaders are advised to contact parents to see how DOE can further accommodate those students. As for schools reopening Tutuila, it's still in the planning phase. We are in planning phase and we are taking into consideration reports from DOH, the task force and Honorable GAR. So right now it's in the plan. It's not been confirmed based on the reports of the positive cases that have been reported in the past few days. So once that we received support from leadership, ASG leadership and GAR and task force, we will plan accordingly. But for now, schools in Tutuila will remain closed and continue implementation of virtual and remote learning. As for the devices, we have received 1,500 of them, but according to last week's report from our technical team, the procurement officials who are responsible for releasing the equipment have been tested positive. So that will further delay the receipt of these devices to be distributed out to the schools. Other than that, that's all coming from DOE. We're continuing to work with collaborating with DOH on safety and health protocols when that time comes. But for now, we are still in virtual and remote learning for all schools in Tutuila. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Salavea, for that update on DOE operations. And now we're going to try one last time for our folks at LBJ and see if Charmaine or someone else is available from LBJ to give us an update of operations there. Okay, it looks like we will not have someone from LBJ.
Excuse me, Gar, Charmaine is trying to get on the Zoom link right now
Okay,
for LBJ.
we'll give her a few minutes. Is she trying? Okay, Charmaine, you are on. Okay, I think this is what we'll do. We will go ahead and open the floor for questions. And once we have Charmaine on the Zoom link, we will have her address the questions related to LBJ and then speak about the operations at LBJ. I can say generally that preparations in LBJ are still moving forward. We are now seeing more patients come in and admissions. We have, as of this morning, we have a total of 29 admissions in the that are COVID-related patients. And so we will leave that to, oh, looks like Charmaine is now on board. Charmaine, go ahead.
Hi, here. Sorry, apologies, Dar and members. I've been outside helping out at the tent. So I'm a bit unfamiliar. What is it that we would like to talk about for LBJ?
Charmaine, we are now doing a press conference, sharing with the members of the public the operations, and any update of what's happening at the LBJ is where we're at now.
Oh, okay. So with LBJ, as everybody knows, when you come into LBJ, we actually two tents set up, and one is for ER visitors who are symptomatic and sick and need to be seen by a doctor. Our other tent to the right of the car park is the outpatients, and this is for anyone who is coming to go and have blood draws or have pre-appointments scheduled by our medical clinics or any of our other clinics, including people who need and children who need rheumatic heart disease shots. As of this morning, as mentioned by the GAR, we have 29 patients who are admitted into 2 units. We have 7 in our COVID unit, and these are patients who need intensive care and treatment. And we have 22 that are here for other illnesses, but were tested positive. They are asymptomatic, and they are being treated for their non-COVID illnesses. So anyone who has diabetes or had some surgical treatments or anything outside of COVID. If they start to show any signs of COVID, we will go ahead with the physicians and treat them accordingly.
Okay, thank you, Charmaine. And now we will open the floor to questions from our media partners. I have a few that I will go ahead and tick off while I have the mic. There are 3 fatalities. The question is, why are we viewing these as cause of death by COVID? The 3 fatalities have been, I believe, all cause of death from other comorbidities, including COVID. So it's not exclusively caused by COVID, but the doctors feel that their infection with COVID contributed to the fatalities. There's a question about prohibited businesses. As required by the governor's declaration, there are numbers of businesses that are considered prohibited at this time, as the Attorney General listed them out in detail. And the reason why they are considered prohibited is because these businesses, in order to operate, will require close contact, both with the business and the customer. And so the declaration declares them prohibited. These include spas, salons, massage parlors, haircut places, movie theaters, and such. The declaration also provides that one of these businesses can ask for an exception if they submitted a request to the EOC and to the task force. To clarification, the request needs to come with a proposed plan on how you expect to operate your business. So just an email to the EOC saying that you want to open your shop is not going to be sufficient. You need to provide us with a plan on how you expect to operate your business safely. The plan will need to require things such as full vaccination of your employees and periodic testing. Also, as a requirement that your customers be fully vaccinated and to be able to show those proof of vaccination before they're allowed in to use your services. The same requirement applies to businesses who are requesting 24-hour operations. Please, when you submit your request, you need to tell us your plan. You tell us how many employees will be working 24 hours and what is your plan to make sure that these employees are safe. Third question is the question about funerals and the exchange of gifts, or CE fa Samoa, in funerals. The declaration, governor's declaration, explicitly says that when it comes to public gatherings, we have a limit of 10 people indoor and 20 outdoors. So that's the requirement. We also have a funeral policy that requires that all funerals must be completed within the 4-hour period. Once the remain is removed from LBJ, all activities must be completed within that 4-hour period. So that's the situation with those, and that is the view of the task force, that there is guidelines on how to operate. And like all things we have said before, it all comes down to self-responsibility. If you want to get ill and get sick and potentially end up at LBJ, then you wouldn't be complying with the requirements. But if you are a responsible person and you love and care about your community and your children, well, you will be able to mask up and stay a faraway distance. If you are leaders of your family, you will make sure that the 10 people requirement is observed and the 20 outdoor is observed as well, and that your funeral would be completed within the 4-hour period as required. Finally, the schools in Manua. The question is that the Senate has passed a resolution requiring that virtual classes in Manua continue. As you just heard from the Deputy Director of DOE, schools in Manua started last week on March 23rd. the Senate resolution requiring virtual classes. I have not seen it, so I don't know what the wording says. But the idea with Manua is that Manua is at this point, COVID community spread has not been shown. We, as Dr. Laval spoke, we have tests in Manua. So anybody in the community who feels sick are invited and encouraged to go get tested. The minute we confirm community spread in Manua, we will execute appropriate measures to make sure that the community at large is protected. But as long as Manua is COVID-free, we want to have operations in Manua continue so that we can still provide services to our people in Manua. And the education of our children is important. Studies have shown that online education has had a negative impact across the country on students in the mainland, and that will happen too in American Samoa. So the Director of Education and the leadership have deemed it necessary to continue live education for the students in Manua as long as there is no danger or confirmed community spread. So I ask our leaders of Manua and our teachers in Manua to please support the decision of the Director of Education and the teachers to make sure that the students of Manua are educated. Make sure that they get the lessons that they need live and in person instead of through a computer. And I applaud the efforts by the Director of Education and the leadership to look into this issue of resuming education at some point in Tutuila. Critical, and it's important, that we do not have another lost school year due to COVID. And I know that we can do this. I know because it's been proven all over the United States and in Hawaii. So we just need to work together. Members of the Fono, members of the community, we need to work together and make sure that we provide our students the best education that we can offer at this point. All right, so those are the 4 questions that I received. I will now open the floor. If Philly is available from Samoa News, this is your chance.
Good morning, sir, and thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for all the other questions I have is already covered, but I just wanted to ask the Department of Health for clarification or comments for the at-home COVID test that's sent from the U.S. Please could you explain the policies? If you test yourself at home and you're tested positive, does the person need to be retested again at any of the DOH clinics or LBJ?
Thank you, Philly, for the question. This is Dr. Laval. For the home test, for those who are using the home test kits, if you tested positive, the next step you can do is to come into one of our testing sites to reconfirm your positive test so we can enter you on the line list and make sure that you're on the list of positive cases that are tested from our sites. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, can they still come in even though they have the home test, just to make sure that we have the numbers are all accurate instead of using the home test?
That's why they can use the home test, but if they're tested negative, they have to come into one of our testing sites to reconfirm that they are test positive, so they can be included in the line list, and then they also can be included so they can register on Title IV Pass to get all the other services that they are entitled to.
Thank you, Dr. Laval. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Philly. Open the floor on to KHJ.
Talofa Gar, this is John Rayner from KHJ News. Just wanted to thank you again for availing yourself and the rest of the task force to us to ask these questions on behalf of the public. AG, if I could kindly ask you this question. Some businesses were allowed to reopen under the plan that they submitted, but since then, those businesses were shut down. Can you specify what the violations that those businesses incurred were and which caused them to be shut down after they were at one point allowed to reopen?
Thank you for the question. The Director of Health is the official under the law that issues the requirements for these businesses to open and what requirements they have to comply with. And the Department of Health, they are the department that is responsible for monitoring compliance. I am not aware of the specifics of the instances of non-compliance, but I'm sure the Director of Health or members of their department are aware and they can give you those specifics.
As far as getting those waivers for approval, what's the process to go about getting that? I know that the guard just said, don't send an email just asking to be open, but could you kind of walk people through what steps they should go about doing to get that approval or for those exemptions?
Yes, it says in the governor's emergency declaration to submit a safety plan. So there's a checklist of what should be in the safety plan. Again, this is a checklist from the Department of Health, and they issue it to any of the applicants. There's also a site visit by the Director of Health or members of his department and the Director of Homeland Security or EOC to check if they're able to comply. And then once they can show that they can comply, the certificate of approval to open is issued by the Director of Health, plus the detailing of all the requirements.
Is there any controls that you have in place to monitor that these conditions for the events are followed? Like say somebody does get a waiver, be it for I'm just throwing out a hypothetical, but say like a funeral or something that is exempted. Does your office go out there and kind of keep an eye and make sure that everything's in compliance?
If you're asking whether the Attorney General's office goes out to do the monitoring, I can say that it's not our office, but the Department of Health plus the police and the Department of Homeland Security. They are the ones who are out there enforcing these requirements.
I see. Okay. Director Motusa, can I ask you that question then? Do you have like a team that goes out in place to these events and says, okay, these people are in compliance and they're good to go, or they're not doing what they said they did, we're going to have to shut this down?
Yeah, thank you, John. For funerals, there's a schedule that our EOC Director Samana has that schedule when those human remains will be released from our morgue. Then there will be a representative from Public Health be available over at the morgue, and also somebody from DPS to escort that body home, and also be there the rest of the time to make sure that ceremony does not go beyond 4 o'clock in the evening, and also beyond 4 hours, and report that in. And of course, John, you know our people, we're from the loving part of the island, so it's going to be very, very tough to control that. And we also rely heavily on our community, people from the community, to make sure those relatives and families are complying with that and report those activities. Over.
Okay, copy that. Thank you, sir. And if I could ask Deputy Director Roxanne from the Department of Education, I understand that SATs were canceled this past weekend or postponed. Do you have any updates on when the next SAT sitting will be for students that need to take them?
Thank you, John. So yes, the SATs were recently canceled this past weekend. We are working with the ETS who monitors the testing for the SATs. They're actually waiting on us, depending on the reports that we receive daily. So that will be forthcoming. It's not definite, but we are working with ETS to confirm dates, because it's really vital that our seniors get that opportunity to take the SAT before, you know, to plan for college. But as soon as we get the confirmed dates, John, we'll get that to you.
Okay, thank you very much. And
Welcome.
as far as the task force, has there been any enforcement of quarantine in the villages? That's been an ongoing concern, just social media people that, you know, at the risk of violating HIPAA laws, it's a small island and you kind of find out who's tested positive and who's not. And then you're seeing positive people that are not following the quarantine guidelines, that aren't staying in the confines of their home as instructed by DOH. Is there any procedure or controls that the task force has in place to make sure that infected people aren't wandering around?
Ask the Attorney General to please address that question.
Yes, John. The Pulinu and the police are to enforce the directives to isolate for the positive cases. And once they are able to confirm the violation, the police would prepare a report. And when that report and investigation is completed, it should be forwarded to our office for prosecution. As of late last week, I haven't received, or my office has confirmed that we haven't received any reports yet of violations of the directives of quarantine. But I understand that the police are investigating instances of that.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to answer our questions. And I'm sure there are other media partners that also wish to get in here. So I will yield my time to those respective people. Thanks again.
Thank you, John. Now the KVZK, this is your opportunity.
Mahalo Soifua, Lieutenant Governor and members of the committee. E le fasili le foto atu mai nei ai le tatou live o tele lope pela atu ia mole sili fia le atu no. Ona, the question is o tangata I o maliliu I le a'afianga part of all the COVID. Le mai tauina maliliu ona o latou ngase tu mau pe o le suka, tu mawalunga, matulanga mo whapena. It goes to show that that COVID has actually brought out, we have an underlying problem in terms of I le health o tātou tangata. O le whesiri la le tu mai le tātou Facebook, po I se fufuanga le malo address ia tātou whawhitauli ia, ma le whanau lava.
Thank you, Tosi. The question is it's what they call a loaded question, but o le tūlanga leo whailo mai I tātou tangata maliliu. Ia o leo mautinoa ai le tele o tūlanga o mai tū mau or comorbidities play a big role in the fatality rate that we are experiencing in American Samoa. And the question you're asking us, how do we deal with the issue of addressing those underlying medical issues, the comorbidities? Well, that's an issue that our government has been dealing with for many years. As you know, our population of folks with those underlying health condition is much higher as a percentage of population compared to other parts of the country. So, of course, once you introduce another cause of death like COVID, it enhances those situations with the underlying community. The work that has to continue is the work of the Department of Health to continue to educate our people about the importance of keeping their health a priority in terms of exercise, their meals, and to make sure that they keep up with their doctor appointments, to make sure that they take their medication as required, and just to be mindful of their health condition. At this particular point in time, Tosi, the government is really narrowing its focus on COVID. So COVID does, as you will have seen and will see, emphasize the other issues that our medical situation has here in American Samoa. But we're dealing with COVID right now, and Ms. Allison Flander is absolutely correct. We can deal and defeat COVID by masking, by getting vaccinated, and by making sure that we get tested and treated when we find symptoms. That's how we reduce and prevent additional deaths here in American Samoa. Ia o stau whainga tali atu lau fisili whaingta tosi.
Le whaftai, lau whionga Lieutenant Kovana, leo fasili na tu mai lungo le tato o penga te whailangi. Ia ai mo e whao atu pea mo lau silafia, ia ai mesi whole tato committee. Ai malo whaftai mo ngā ruenga mai, ai a whaftai mo le avado tu ina mai e KVZK na le paudi o le mato fasili. Whaftai lava.
Thank you, Tosi. We have covered KVZK, KHJ, and Samoa News. Any other media outlets out there that wish to ask a question?
Lieutenant Governor Famulmole Lava, it's Philly at Samoa News.
Yep.
Any update, please, on the governor's plan of providing benefits for the workers impacted in the private sector laid off during the code red? Is that plan finalized? Famulmole Lava.
Thank you, Philly. Great question. The governor's plan to provide assistance to our employees is going through some final preparations, and we hope to, with this blessing, have the governor announce it next week, if not this week. I can preview a little bit that the governor's proposal is to provide assistance not only for our employees who were not able to work during the code red, and some of them still have not been able to go back to work. So the first part of the plan is to provide assistance to employee who has not been getting a paycheck. The second part is to provide assistance to our businesses, and that is a plan that is now in the process to make sure that businesses who were forced to close, some of them still closed, that have access to capital to get back to where they were, and to help limit the negative impact of the closures on their businesses. And then the third aspect, the governor is looking at providing some assistance to our farmers and to our fishermen. Again, if their operations were impacted by the closure, the governor is concerned about our food security and wants to make sure that these important people in the community are protected and they have the assistance they need in order to continue to provide their service. So more on that once the plans are completed and announced by the governor, if not this week, next.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a blessed day.
Ia, talitonu o tātou o mai le si ui o le tātou mawhitanga I le nei tūla le aso. Mo le atu le nganga whawhitai, le mamaru o le atu nuu, ia ono le whawanoina o loto temi tātou te mafuta ai. O le nganga lava o le tātou whainga malo, ia tu atu pea, ia whamaumaunga, whamatalanga e winga I le tātou mawhainga lau whainga malo. Ina ia lausila fia umai lo tātou atu nuu. O le tūlanga wa iai tātou le nei vai tau, I pepesi o le nei whamai oti. Ia o ngā luenga le na o le kovana mo lana komiti. Mana o mia ai le fsoswani o le atunu atoa. Ai mesi o tātou le Amerika Samoa. Ia moli atuai le agaga faafetai ona o le faamanoina o lo tou temi tatou te mafuta ai ma talatalanoa i lenei aso. Tala pea mavanoa ia le komiti faafoe ia e mese ia le afioga i le kovana. Ni fisili e manaʻomia i le tatou atunuu se faamalamalamaga. Ia faao mai ona taumafai atu lea o lau faiga mālō. E fia faamautū pea le tulaga o manua le aga o te talitonu. O lo iai lava le manatu o tatou tumālō ua ese le faiga o manua. Ia o le naunauataʻiga le afioga i le kovana ia tutusa tutuila ma manua i mea uma lava. O loo manatu foi lea o le mea tatau ona fai. Ia e peitaʻi e le tusa le tulaga lea ma le tulaga o le faamaʻi. E lē manaʻo loʻu tagata e pepesi le faamaʻi i manua. Pe o le pepesi lea ua pepesi ai nei tutuila. O te loa foi o le finagaloga o le afioga i le kovana. O le mafuaga lenā ua iai le fuafuaga e puipuia manua. Ia aua nei sao atu ai lenei faamaʻioti. Puipuia alo ma fanau manua. Ia aua nei aafia i tatou i le tulaga o le faamaʻi. O loo iai le avanoa e mafai ona puipui manua. Talu ai e leʻi oo atu le faamaʻi e leʻi faamaonia. O le mea lea ia lava papale pea le tatou i tumālō. O le mafuaaga ua ala ia ona fai fuafuaga e le o se manatu ina ia fai nisi tulaga le tatau mo manua leai. E ala ona fai ona o le alofa ia manua. O le alofa i le whanau ma le tupulaga. Ai mese le au mātutua. Ina nei te ua whaina tātou le nei whamaʻi. O loo maua le avanoa. I le nei vai tau ona e leo pipesi le whamaʻi. E whaawau ai a tautua le whainga mālo i manua. Whaawau ai le o ina o tātou whanau ina ia popoto. Ma ia sāuni. Ia ngai atu mo se lumanai manuia. Ma fuanga le nā ua. Ta whai le finangalo le fionga le kovana e mese le whatonua onga. Whaawau pea onga i manua. Whaawau pea nisi o fuafuanga. Ia ma au nanga le atunu. O le mele moli atrai malu puenga. I le mamalu o tātou tu malo. Pea whai wa iei nisi wa manatu wa le whataua i le fionga le kovana. O lo tangata lo tātou tu malo le ai. O le nau ta inga ina ia puipuia malutia manua. Ma ia whaawau pea tautuanga le malo. Ina ia manuia e lo tātou tu malo. A whai e whamaunia wa pepesi le whamai manua. Ia ona whapena fuila ia ona tātou o atu lesi la sanga. Ia o le temin nei o le atu lo le avanoa i le afionga i le maputasi, le afionga ia maunga tasi a suenga, ia molana saunoanga whatama whaifoi masui o le task force ia e watu waisa na saunoanga i le mamanu o le tātou atunu. I lau afionga i le maputasi.
Tai le afionga le ke kovanga ia e misfoi le mamanu kako task force. Kongo lo ka poi me foi le fionga al kovanga ma mamalo ka tungeka fe foi le fionga le preskenge ka mau le kongo fionga fon kalai ma sul fi li al fon fa pour la fon ku e mo o ka poi me foi le ko fa lo ia mamalo fon ole am smonga ia mo kulanga ma sangai ku mai mo ko uri le mo ma lo lo usai i le fenga renga le kua le ai le lava e lo longa kingo mkali le lei i ko ka poinga ngo mangu o aso mangu e kuir mangu ya fa popo so kalanga le ai o ka ko lo uma aban au le ri de kanaka i fai nga renga e ka penga fo e le ri i ko kongo ka ko when God calls you to do the work he prepares you he gives you the power of the Holy Spirit and his word that you know it's going to be all right. Now, it's easier said than done, but the example's already been done, given to us from the beginning of the scripture, even to the end of the scripture. But as leaders, we need to stand tall. We know We know we're going to get tested more ways than one. But the thing to do is have your mindset on all of the good things, the positive thing, because the scripture says all good things comes from God. Yeah, le malu kako fia e foi fio melo fio mele no yesili, malu kako kapingeka pa fia kui kako usole me oblika. Our fellow partners, thank you very much, Allison and all of you. Yeah, we pray for your family and loved ones back in the States. Pray for the United States. Pray for those who are crying out for help, for freedom, and for justice in other parts of the world, especially in Europe. Again, stay on the positive course, and most of all, let the Lord take care of all of us. May God bless the United States. May God bless American Samoa. So forth.